edition. We're going back towards, let's say, the 17th century era in of itself, and we're going to concentrate on the rabbi called Rabbi Baruch Barzilai Z'tl, one of the famous rabbis of Israel of his time. He was rabbi of Moshe Galante, who would go on to become one of the first chief rabbis of the land of Israel. Rishon LeZion, naturally, his Talmid will become. Now, Rabbi Baruch Barzilai would go on to become a famous Shochet Rabbanan, rabbinic emissary, a Rosh Yeshiva in Btzfat, and especially during the 17th century, respectively. Let's explore a few of the highlights of the famous rabbi's life. Now, he was, we're not exactly sure from the records on the exact date he would actually be born. That's not so clear. We're not sure if it was during the 16th century or the early 17th century itself. That's, if anyone's got information on that, I would really appreciate it. He will learn Torah at a very young age, at a high level. Eventually, he will reach a stage of becoming a Rosh Yeshiva in Btzfat, and that was along with another great rabbi of his time, named Rabbi Yonatan Galante. I think it could be that Rabbi Yonatan was maybe, I'm not sure if he was a father of Rabbi Moshe Galante or not, but very much was, he was part of his generation in of itself. That I have to double check in of itself. Now, his student, he would teach, I think, was Rabbi Moshe Galante, who would later on go on to become a Rishon LeZion, which is a very, very prominent position at that point in time, head rabbi in Jerusalem. Now, it's actually interesting. I think in the year Hey Tuf Tet Vav, if I'm not mistaken, or Nun Tzvit, he was sent as a shliach of Tzfat, I believe, with Rabbi Yonatan Galante. They will actually visit from Tzfat to the country Turkey over there. And I think he would visit some of the Ashkenaz countries also. Which, remember, a Shluchei Rabbanan was a position that was taken on by like a head rabbi in Jerusalem to potentially raise funds for that locale in Israel, one of the holy cities of Israel, while at the same time, it will have a dual purpose of strengthening the communities they will come to by giving lectures and talks and really injecting Torah in itself. So he would go on a shlichut over there to Izmir and to various other places, I think in Europe, and they will speak various different questions and answers, including about the matters specifically about ribbit, interest, that specific topic in of itself. Now, I think that a lot of the tshuvot, the answers for a lot of these questions would actually be written down, but I don't think it was ever printed inside the specific sefer in of itself at any stage in time. Manuscripts, well, as we're going to relate on towards the end of the class, will actually be found at later stages by great rabbis, but a book per se itself, I'm not too sure, was ever printed. So that was very interesting, various different topics. And he was known as a man of emet, that was one of the great rabbis of his specific era, very, very worldly and very worldly acclaimed and recognized. Now, we're not too sure on the year he actually passed away, also according to records. I believe most people believe it was around 1658, maybe 1657, but that is not too sure. Taf Yud Chet, as they say in Hebrew. He was, many great rabbis would actually give him a hesped, a eulogy, including the famous Rabbi David HaKohen would, I think, eulogize him inside his Torah colossal book called the Ben Hehe, if I'm not mistaken. Called him the Reish Metivta Be'ir HaKodesh Tzfat. What a great rabbi he actually was, but how knowledgeable he was. And remember in Tzfat, especially that day of time, we're talking about, it was in the 100-year period of the famous Arizal, the Ari HaKadosh, many great rabbis, Rabbi Chaim Vital. They were in that tkufa of those few generations, respectively. So he very much was connected to all the great rabbis of Tzfat. Now, I think he was buried in the cemetery in Tzfat. I think actually next to the kever, the burial plot of the Ari HaKadosh, Rabbi Luria Ashkenazi, respectively. Now, I think he did write many writings within regards to his various answers to Shuvot, to various different Torah questions that were coming up at that point in time. But I don't know if an actual book itself was actually printed or not, or was just a collection of his Shuvot was featured in other places. I think various of his psaks inside the Shut, the Shelot Shuvot question answers books are brought, I think, in the Be'emayim Chayim of Rabbi Shmuel Vital in his book. So he will actually bring it down. So many of the works of his or the writings of his will be brought down in other great books, if I'm not mistaken. I think some of the Shuvot he wrote was actually written in Gaza, I think at the time period where he came to Eretz Yisrael, respectively. I think also there's the Shut of Chut HaMeshulash of Rabbi Chaim Mevelozin, if I'm not mistaken. It could be his Shuvot are also featured in there, which is very interesting enough. And also various teachings in the books of Rav Moshe ben Avisti. Rav Moshe ben Avisti, a famous rabbi of his time, I think of Turkey, and we actually did a video on him a few months ago. I think in the book called the B'shut, B'nai Moshe will actually bring it down. And very, very interesting stuff. They actually say, Shamhu mechane et Rabbi Baruch mitkifi ar'a d'Yisrael. And I think he's also mentioned other places, these shuvot, on these various different matters, Torah matters in of itself. Now, also, I believe it's actually written that the Chida, Rabbi Chaim Yosef David Eisler, one of the most famous rabbis in Jewish history, actually saw his maybe saw some of the manuscripts or had a connection to it, and will actually mention him in various different books, including Kiseh David, the Dvash Lefi, Yosef Tehilot, and Ahavat David, in various different Sfarim itself, respectively. So we're not too sure on the exact date when he actually passed away, but we do have information, lavish information on the great rabbi. It would have been towards the mid-late 1600s. He would have passed away. And remember, his Talmid, Rabbi Moshe Galante, will go on to become one of the earliest Rishon LeZion's chief rabbis of Jerusalem. Remember, at that point in time, the chief rabbi position was known as a head position among Ottoman authorities in that window of time. So you can see he had great rabbis, he had great students he was part of, and there was really a transition period in Jewish history, and there was an important period also where we see there was important Torah scholarships going on at that point in time. So he lived at the time period of Rabbi Yonatan Galanti, the great rabbi. He was a Rosh Yeshiva of B'tzfat, and very much one of the famous Shluchei Rabbanans, rabbinic emissaries of his time. Now, friends, we are a community here. We're learning about the great Oriental North African rabbis of yesteryear in this series. Now, firstly, if you happen to descend from any of the great Chachamim we are speaking about, please send me a comment. I'd love to hear more information. And another thing also, if anyone's interested in watching these videos, please share the videos to other people also that may be interested. We're a community here. We love learning about the great rabbis of yesteryear. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please, I'll appreciate it if you could subscribe. We're growing. We are nearly on 6,500 members, which is absolutely staggering and incredible. And the goal is, to be very ambitious and get to the Festival of Shavuot, which is only just under 2.5 weeks away. Let's try and push it to close to 7,000 members by that point in time. I'm recording this just before the Festival of Lag BaOmer, which will be tonight in Israel. That's Lag BaOmer naturally is the 33rd day of the Omer, the Sfirot, where we're counting from the Festival of Passover all the way to the Festival of Shavuot, which naturally is 49 countings respectively. So I'm recording it just before then. So want to wish you all a meaningful day, a happy Lag BaOmer. And please watch over all the previous videos. We've covered more than 900 great rabbis of yesteryear in this series. So wishing you all blessings here from Israel. Take care and thanks and appreciate.